In the early hours of December 17, 1944, a lone American soldier, Private First Class James W. Bradley, found himself at the forefront of a pivotal moment in the Battle of the Bulge. Bradley, a 22-year-old infantryman from Wisconsin, had been stationed in the Ardennes forest with his unit, the 101st Airborne Division, when the Germans launched a surprise counterattack. As the Allies struggled to regroup and respond, Bradley's intuition and quick thinking would prove to be the decisive factor in thwarting the German advance. The night had been chaotic, with artillery fire and small arms exchanges lighting up the darkness. Bradley's unit had been tasked with holding a strategic road junction near the town of Bastogne, a crucial supply hub for the Allied forces. As the Germans pushed forward, Bradley's squad had dug in, waiting for the inevitable attack. But as the hours ticked by, an uneasy feeling began to settle over Bradley. Something didn't feel right. As he scanned the surrounding terrain, Bradley noticed a faint noise, the sound of engines rumbling in the distance. At first, he thought it might be the Allies' own tanks, but as the noise grew louder, he realized with a jolt of adrenaline that it was the Germans. They were coming, and they were coming fast. Bradley's squad was vastly outnumbered, and their position was precarious at best. Without hesitation, Bradley sprang into action. He grabbed a nearby radio and began to send out a warning to the rest of the unit, his voice low and urgent as he tried to convey the gravity of the situation. But as he spoke, he realized that the radio was malfunctioning, the signal weak and fading in and out. Panic began to set in as Bradley frantically tried to repair the equipment, his hands shaking with cold and fear. Just as all hope seemed lost, Bradley spotted a figure emerging from the darkness, a young lieutenant, no more than 25 years old, who had been separated from his own unit in the chaos. The lieutenant, whose name was Thompson, was a seasoned veteran of the North African campaign, and he quickly took charge of the situation. Together, Bradley and Thompson hatched a plan to hold off the German advance, using their limited resources to maximum effect. As the Germans closed in, Bradley and Thompson led their small band of soldiers in a desperate bid to delay the enemy long enough for reinforcements to arrive. They set up a makeshift barricade, using whatever materials they could scrounge up, broken trees, abandoned vehicles, and even their own bodies, to block the German advance. The fighting was intense, with bullets whizzing past their heads and artillery shells crashing down all around them. But despite being vastly outnumbered, Bradley and Thompson's tiny force held firm, buying precious time for the Allies to regroup and launch a counterattack. As the night wore on, the Germans began to falter, their momentum slowing as they encountered increasingly stiff resistance. And when the sun finally rose on December 17th, the Allies were ready, launching a fierce counterattack that would ultimately drive the Germans back and secure the road junction. The battle was far from over, but Bradley's intuition and quick thinking had changed the course of the fight. His actions, and those of Lieutenant Thompson, had given the Allies a vital foothold, allowing them to regroup and launch a successful counterattack. As the dust settled, Bradley and his comrades were hailed as heroes, their bravery and selflessness in the face of overwhelming odds inspiring their fellow soldiers to fight on. In the end, the Battle of the Bulge would prove to be a turning point in the war, a decisive victory for the Allies that would pave the way for the final push into Germany. And though James W. Bradley's name may not be as well known as some of his more famous comrades, his actions on that fateful night in December 1944 will always be remembered as a testament to the power of courage and determination in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Midnight Saboteur, as he came to be known, had single-handedly foiled a German counterattack, changing the course of the battle and inspiring his fellow soldiers to fight on against all odds. As the Allies regrouped and launched their counterattack, Bradley and Thompson's squad was tasked with pushing forward, trying to exploit the weaknesses in the German lines. The fighting was brutal, with both sides taking heavy casualties, but the Allies were determined to drive the Germans back. Bradley and Thompson led the charge, their squad moving cautiously through the snow-covered terrain, scanning for any sign of enemy activity. As they advanced, they stumbled upon a small German outpost, tucked away in a secluded valley. The outpost was heavily fortified, with machine gun nests and barbed wire surrounding the perimeter. Bradley and Thompson knew they had to take out the outpost if they were going to have any chance of breaking through the German lines. They hatched a plan, using their knowledge of the terrain to launch a surprise attack on the outpost. Bradley would lead a small team of soldiers, sneaking around to the rear of the outpost while Thompson and the rest of the squad provided covering fire from the front. The plan was to catch the Germans off guard, overwhelming them before they could respond. As Bradley and his team crept through the snow, they encountered a German patrol, who had been sent out to scout the surrounding area. The patrol was small, only 4 soldiers, but they were well armed and highly trained. Bradley knew that if they were to alert the rest of the outpost, the entire mission would be compromised. Without hesitation, Bradley and his team took out the patrol, using stealth and precision to eliminate the threat. The Germans never even had a chance to fire a shot. With the patrol neutralized, Bradley and his team continued to move forward, reaching the rear of the outpost undetected. Thompson and the rest of the squad began to lay down a withering field of fire, pinning down the German defenders as Bradley and his team launched their attack. The fighting was fierce, with bullets flying everywhere and grenades exploding all around them. But Bradley and Thompson's squad fought with a ferocity that the Germans couldn't match, slowly but surely gaining ground. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the outpost fell, the German defenders either killed or captured. Bradley and Thompson's squad had done the impossible, taking out a heavily fortified outpost and punching a hole in the German lines. As they regrouped and tended to their wounded, Bradley couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and satisfaction. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out on top, their bravery and determination inspiring their fellow soldiers to fight on. But as they pressed forward, they knew that the battle was far from over. The Germans would regroup and launch a counterattack, and Bradley and Thompson's squad would have to be ready. The fate of the war hung in the balance, and Bradley knew that every decision, every move, would be crucial in the days ahead. He glanced over at Thompson, who was busy tending to one of their wounded comrades. The young lieutenant looked up, meeting Bradley's gaze, and nodded in understanding. They were in this together, and they would see it through to the end. As they moved forward, the sound of artillery fire grew louder, and the ground began to shake beneath their feet. The Germans were launching a counterattack, and Bradley and Thompson's squad was right in the middle of it. They took cover behind a nearby ridge, watching as the German tanks rolled forward, their guns blazing. Bradley knew that they had to act fast, or risk being overrun. He turned to Thompson, his eyes locked on the young lieutenant's. "We need to take out those tanks," he shouted above the din of battle. Thompson nodded, his face set in a grim determination. "I've got an idea," he yelled back. "Follow me." And with that, Thompson took off, sprinting across the open terrain as the German tanks bore down on them. Bradley followed close behind, his heart racing with fear. What was Thompson planning? And would they be able to pull it off before it was too late? The outcome of the battle, and the fate of the war, hung precariously in the balance.